Alistair, hello.
Oh, Sam, hello. How are you?
I'm good. I'm sat on your couch. We've really committed to the bit of doing these in-person recordings for the new episodes of Doctor Who.
Oh, we absolutely have. It's lovely to be here. This mic, I'm getting used to mic in face. And
I know. This is very different for anyone who, I mean, if from listening to this podcast, you might notice some crisp tones.
Crisp tones.
From us with our
if everyone
brand new
says
mics.
this is worse.
Then we're going to cry into our new microphones.
Be like, oh.
Yeah, but no, I feel very like professionally podcast. We had
Oh my God.
the infamous Galley Cab on last week, and it was a lot of firsts for us. We got new mics, new season of Doctor Who, loads of guests, first time with a dog on the pod. But I had so much fun. I thought it was great.
I had a great time last week with the Galley Cab. We got into the Gallifrey Cabaret and how it's come to life and how it's grown and how it's changed and what goes into the making of. And then we talked about the Robot Revolution and the debut of everyone's new fave, Miss Belinda Chandra.
It just feels like we're getting corker after corker
Oh,
episode-wise.
yeah.
We'll get into it in a bit. Before that, this is actually the second time today
Yes.
we've sat down to talk about this episode.
This is our second recording talking about Lux today. We were with the wonderful Crystal D, who was kind enough to bring us on to her review series. I was going to say it's not a podcast as much as kind of a video review series. And Crystal works fast. So that has been uploaded today, day of recording, on Saturday, day of Lux going out. So if you'd like to go and see some additional thoughts that we had about Lux, you can go and see that over on Crystal's YouTube channel. And that was so much fun we had speaking to Crystal today as well.
I know. Really. Russell T Davies works hard. The Dev works hard, but Crystal works harder.
Crystal D works harder than the lot. Crystal got it out so quick.
Yeah.
And that was a nice little warm up for us. Very early this morning we were recording that one, and now we've had a, you know what we've had a glass of Pimm's.
We've had a glass of Pimm's, the sun's shining, and you know what I love to do on a day where it's gorgeous weather outside? Is sit with my lovely friends on the internet and talk about Doctor Who.
You know what to do on a sunny bank holiday weekend, 24
Yeah.
degrees, sun's out, 3 p.m, beautiful.
Bank
Sit
holiday
indoors.
weekend, sit indoors.
Lower that blind, lower that blind, get me in front of the microphone because I want to talk about Doctor Who.
I'm Mr. Ring-a-ding, yeah. No, it's a really good episode. Can you imagine if it was an episode and we hated it and we're like, we're going to spend a whole day talking about something?
We're not doing it this week, darling. We're not doing it.
No. But no, this was so fun.
Yeah.
This episode. We kind of have to get into it. I feel like when we have episodes that we've watched before, we kind of have the luxury of having a bit of a yap, sort of go into it, and we can kind of rely on memory. But for this, we literally watched this morning, did a session with Crystal right afterwards to talk about it, come around here, and now we're talking about it again. And I'm just excited to get into it.
I can't wait to get into it, my darling. I've got many notes. Do you want me to just dive in today?
I will give a little bit of context.
Oh,
to viewers.
sorry. I was way too excited.
You were
I was like,
way too-
shall I start?
I did say we're throwing caution to the wind, but not that much, my
I
darling.
just forgot the format of the show. I was like, shall I
200 and something episodes in, you're like, I'm going to get
Shall
in.
I talk about my favourite musical cues from the episode now? It's like, not yet.
Oh,
yet.
Jules says, I thought you were going to say your favourite musicals, and I was about to be like, actually, yes, let's do that.
Let's do that. Have you
Let's
seen
do
Book of
that.
Mormon?
Well, look, we're talking about Lux, which is the second episode in the new season of Doctor Who. It aired today on the 19th of April 2025, written by Russell T Davies and directed by Amanda Brocci, who I have worked with before, and she's
Gag.
amazing. Gag. Yeah, I was watching Unleashed, and there was the bit where Stefan Power,
Oh, yeah.
he was in the back and he was like, all the important people are over there making the decisions. And they cut to them. And I was
That's
like,
good.
Diva! I was like, I know you. And
I know
she
you.
did Renegade Now. She's one of the directors on Renegade Now that I did in 2022.
Yeah.
And I've got such a great memory of like dancing with her at the rap party. But I was gagged when I saw that she directed this.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Talent
lovely.
recognizing talent. And I love that for
Yeah. But honestly, yeah, really, really good episode. And we reached out to some of you on all of our social media across X,
Yes.
Blue Sky, and Instagram. And we thought we might read a couple of your thoughts.
you. Oh, please, let's.
So over on Instagram, Lockdown Who said, is this fucking play about us?
Bitch, you better go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I'm not mistaken in mine.
The answer is yes. It
Yeah,
is. The answer
sure.
is.
Yeah.
Somebody said, I bloody love the Pantheon of Discord. What a great
Yeah.
name for a band.
It is a good name for a band, actually,
Great
isn't
name
it?
for a band.
I love that.
Yeah. I simultaneously need to watch every other episode immediately. This is what I love about Doctors, when you watch a really, really good one.
Yeah.
And you're like, now I need to go back and watch every other good
Now I
one.
want more.
Now
It's
I want
reframed
more.
for me. I saw someone say this earlier on as well. They were like, I've just gone back and watched Legend of Ruby Sunday, Empire of Death. They're like, I get it now.
I've said this for ages. It's one half of a two-part story, and we're now getting the second part
I
of the story.
agree. For me,
We
it's
are.
warming up the previous stuff.
Hazza said, gathering some momentum, was worried about the middle with that scene, but I loved it.
But I love that it's that scene already.
I know.
You know?
Infamous.
Oof.
Adam Grange said, I've already caught myself humming the Ring-a-Ding song several times today. I've already done it on the pod today. So like you can trust that I was like driving over here and I was like, Davil said, fantastic episode. The Mr. Riggeding song will be stuck in my head. So it seems like we're not alone in that one.
No.
Evan said, I've never screamed so loudly in my life until I saw that scene.
That scene.
Oh my goodness.
Make Me Offer also said, the sign of a good episode is one you want to immediately rewatch. This was 10 out of 10. I did actually instantly go back and rewind, which is so rare for these. I do go back and I do watch them again, but that I'd go back and like for fun be like, oh, I want to see that bit again.
Yeah.
You know? And then there were bits that I was watching afterwards. It's like a bit of like a refresher, like, okay, jog my mind, what am I gonna... And there were bits that I was really surprised. I was like, oh, gut punch of emotion in this.
For sure. Like again, we'll get into it properly, but I came to tears. Like I wasn't crying, but like my eyes were welling up, and that's not happened to me. They were wet. They were damp. They were camp, but also damp.
Okay. Damp positive.
Damp hyphen non-derogatory.
Okay.
Yeah.
So over on X, sorry that we're still using it, but so are you guys. So I wouldn't have to do this if you didn't engage with us. Bad Wolf Archive said they absolutely adored it. The amount of heart that clearly went into it is just the cherry on top of a well-written, well-acted, well-designed accomplishment of a story. A new favorite. William said, I was preparing for disappointment, but I'm glad I was wrong. The reviews were right. I really liked it. The past 2 episodes have been the best Doctor Who has been in a while, and I'm loving the creativity of the show. Mr. Ring-a-Ding was great, and Mrs. Flood continues to be iconic.
I do feel like we're really gaining momentum into what will be, I think, a very good season.
Yes, 100%. Dragzilla said, fantastic. Such big creative swings for the show that we've never seen before, which is so fun and refreshing. Keeps both the Doctor and the audience on their toes. I love the gods. Keep them coming, Russ. Entered my top 5 of this era.
Arguably for me, I think potentially my number 1 spot.
On first watch, I would say this feels like this is my number 1 of this era.
I really loved a lot of episodes in this era, but it's...
Yeah, there was like the rush of the Star Beast and it being like, oh my God, Doctor Who's back. Yeah. And us like, when we first watched that, we said this before, me and Sam, we clung to each other. We were clinging. Really like... Clammy hands, like, oh my God, it's coming back.
It's back.
It's back. She's returning and they are returning and it is returning. We were just like, oh my God. Aside from that, I think this is, I think the most I like reacted to an episode.
Yeah,
for
sure.
In my body, I reacted
in my
to
spirit.
it. I felt this episode. Raf said, overall a great episode with great acting and stunning looks, but it fails to give the villain/god a proper development and send off just like they did with Sutek.
I don't necessarily agree with that.
Yeah.
But we'll get into it.
Interesting. Every so often I scroll past a tweet with like no likes. That's just abysmal. Well, we don't feel that way, but listen, hey. Grace said, phenomenal. I was worried it wouldn't live up to the hype because it looked so good from the trailer, but nope, it surpassed it. There's loads of lovely comments this week.
I really do feel that. Should I do a couple from Blue Sky?
Yes, go on. Throw some more in.
Blue Sky for a minute. Ethan, friend of the pod, said, absolute genius. The meta stuff was leaked ahead, which I was a little hesitant about, but it kind of works here. Very intrigued by the way the rest of the season seems to set up into leading into the TV show thing. I really hope it sticks the landing.
Yes.
Interesting. Neon Nostalgic says, meta in a fun and creative way, and I'm glad the Whovian scene could have easily come across cringe under a less talented writer. Mr. Ring-a-Ding was such a fun villain and Uncomming knocked out of the park.
Yeah, 100%.
Laura said, I really loved it. Felt like Ncuti had really found himself as the Doctor in this episode. Belinda was great, and I have a feeling it's going to cause mixed opinions, but I loved the whole meta fan sequence, and I genuinely got a bit emotional when Reggie's wife gave them the matches.
Yeah, that's a moment that I forgot. But a good one.
It's a good one.
There's layers and layers and layers within the story that are good.
It's a good one. And finally, Kenny Koala said, it's the first episode of 15 that I've genuinely felt frightened. The animation was creative and really well done. I wasn't sure about the whole Blink sequence, but Mrs. Flood brought even more questions. Ncuti and Varida were incredible and the music was amazing.
I love referring to it as the Blink sequence. It's very colloquial. We know what the sequence is.
I know.
And we'll get to it. So we've got a lot to discuss, I think, before we get to the sequence.
Yeah.
Should we start with the opening? I felt that this was a proper 10 out of 10 cold open. Like the cold opens are always, fun in Doctor Who. Like we know how they go. Open in a kind of unusual place and then the villain is revealed and a bunch of people die in the process. But the reveal of here I come, like really I think I got chills.
Yeah.
I wrote down chills. Was I lying? I think I got chills. And the animation immediately is so gorgeous on Mr. Ring-a-Ding. Like the creative direction in this as well for that animation is just fantastic.
For me, I just loved, listen, all animation is valid.
Yeah.
All animation is valid.
All animation is
But
valid.
I find that often, because I think it might be cheaper and quicker, when they want something to look 2D, studios will make it CG and then render it 2D. So I don't know if you've seen any of that new Spider-Man show on Disney Plus. It's meant to kind of look like a 2D comic book, but it is a CG model that they just render flat.
Yes. Yeah.
And when they heard they were doing this animated episode, well, we thought it would be a whole episode. It was more of a sequence. But when I heard they were doing this, I was a bit like, oh, I hope they don't do that. And then we started seeing clips and I was like, it doesn't look like that. But watching it like this, it was so clear, and they kind of confirm it in Unleashed, that it is literally hand-drawn, cell by cell animation. And it just looks so good. It's very like Hanna-Barbera. It's very Looney Tunes. It's very Betty Boop.
It's very Cuphead.
Very Cuphead, yeah. I really, really liked it. I thought that it was beautifully done.
It was done by Framestore, and they've got specialists who do animation.
Yeah.
And
the lead animator, he'd worked on Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
And that's on T. And that's on Period. Beautiful introduction. And then Don't Make Me Laugh had a really nice payoff. I don't know if you saw this coming. I didn't see it coming with ha 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 ha. Did you see it coming?
So I am someone who doesn't mind looking at filming photos. And now I feel like I can say it.
No.
And so when they were filming these scenes, we actually end up on the Wholala channel blocking all the tags that mean that you see them.
I'm sorry, guys. There's one account in particular that I have blocked for a while now. And even this week, they were posting like, oh, here's another bunch of spoilers. No tags on it.
See, I don't want spoilers, but I'm happy. And I've always been like this. I remember in 2007 watching them film Series 4 and being on the forum.
Watching on the street. Just... Billy.
I was just watching them, but I was on the Planet Gallifrey forum and they'd have all the filming leak photos.
Yeah.
So I don't mind seeing some of them. And there was a bit where the Doctor and Belinda are running away out of the movie theatre and the signs had already fallen down. It spelt out Harbinger.
Yeah.
So I kind of knew they were going to do something like that, but I didn't obviously know what. So, but I didn't see it coming that the whole reason he says, don't make me laugh. It's because his laugh is ha 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 ha.
That's what I thought was quite a gag. I was like, I should have seen this coming. Why not laugh?
But you didn't.
But I didn't. They got me.
They got you, gal. But no, I thought it was really, really great. And then I like it's such a cold open where you're dropped into the adventure there, and then you're suddenly back where you were at the end of the last episode with Doctor and Belinda, where they're in the same outfit in the same spot trying to get her home. So you've got this cold open in the theatre, and then you've got them off the back of the last adventure.
Yeah.
And then melding those two, I just think it was done very well.
I really like the complete continuity from one episode to the next, and just being like, not a minute has passed since you left
finish, us sweating. They said there's no space to
no
fit a story in there.
We gave them 6 months last week. Oh, no, not more than that. We gave them 10 years, didn't we? How long did we give?
It was 6 months between the Doctor arriving and Belinda arriving.
Yes, you're right. 6 months of the Doctor being on the planet. You're right. Yes. So they've got a good window there. And if you want to do the Robot Revolution adventures, sans Doctor, you've got a good 9.5 years.
You really could.
So you've got plenty you can do.
And he has done a lot of Big Finish. The guy that plays Al, he does a lot of Big Finish.
Oh, well, there we are.
So
he's available.
Regular.
Come on in. They've got his number.
Yeah.
A little bit of gaggy music turned up in this one as well pretty early on. And there was a tease this week that there was going to be a bit of music from Series 5 appear. And what does appear? I didn't see it coming. Amy's theme.
I know. I thought that too. We were listening. I was like,
excuse me.
Amy, what are you doing? I see. This has bothered you in the past when they reuse music from previous episodes. And as a rule, it doesn't bother me. There's that bit in Boom where they reuse the music where the 14th Doctor finds the TARDIS, and that's fine. But reusing a companion's theme?
Yeah.
A theme?
Yeah.
That's a ballsy move.
They did something in Series 10 when Bill enters the TARDIS, and I don't think it's Amy's.
I think is it Rory's theme or something like that?
Rory's
Does
theme?
Rory have a theme?
I don't think Rory's got a theme. It's the... And I don't know what that's called. So that's how I kind of read the meaning of the theme being on at that point, is that it's kind of the beginning of Belinda's journey at this point.
Yeah, it's
as a companion.
This is the first episode where she starts to take on the mantle of being a companion and kind of enjoying it in a way. She still wants to get home, but especially by the end of the episode, she's like, Doctor, I trust you.
Yeah.
I know that you want what's best. Yeah.
Or the link is that she wants to see her parents again, as did Amy, because her parents were swallowed by a crack and she doesn't remember them. A crack. She lost her parents to crack.
God. Poor her. Poor her.
Terrible way to go.
Terrible way to go.
Terrible way to go.
I loved the scene where we get the costume change
Oh,
again. The callback to The Devil's Cord. I know everyone online, when they released this clip, they're like, oh my God, they're reusing the same thing. It's a reference.
IQ
It's a
of 3.
callback. It just is so nice. And I also like they added in a little CG like zoom door, because when the Doctor and Ruby do it, if you watch them back to back, they just run into one tunnel and run out another tunnel. Whereas in this one, they run into one tunnel and then the door kind of goes zoom, and then they come out of that door.
You've got to have an automatic door.
You've got to have an automatic door.
You've got to have an
I
automatic door.
really liked it. I love that scene.
I really liked it as well. And it's like, honey, the best part of this, the clothes. I was going to say that felt like Pertwee could have said it.
Yeah, I think
If Pertwee was just a little more gay, he could have used that one.
he could have used it.
And also, he did say it because every Doctor is the same Doctor, and he is all of them.
That's very true.
Every time we move into a
Pertwee
new...
said, yes, Queen, in the last
Pertwee
episode.
said, yes, Queen. And this is what you have to understand about the Doctor. Every time you watch 15, you are watching 1 through 14. And the shared consciousness exists in another person.
Mm-hmm.
All of them are doing what the new one is doing.
The Schalke Doctor's there somewhere.
The Schalke Doctor is in there. The War Doctor is in there saying yes, Queen.
Fugitive Doctor
The Fugitive Doctor is in
She
there.
would say yes, Queen.
The 15th is the culmination of all of these people coming to that point saying, yes, Queen, it's about the clothes.
Well, there you
that is the War and 9th Doctor after decades of healing.
Yeah. Well, talking about all the Doctor being a cumulative whatever,
Yeah.
it's so interesting in this because we talk about like the dichotomy between Belinda and the Doctor, where she's, wanting to get home and she's not wanting to get with steps and adventures and stuff. And we spoke briefly about this with Crystal. Go view her video. But I genuinely saw like something scary in the Doctor.
Me too.
Like he kind of scared me a bit in the way where the machine beeped and it was ready to bounce to another time period. And Belinda was like, right, let's go. And he was like holding the TARDIS door shut and like not letting her go in. And I was like, Doctor, let her in. Let her in. And she was saying like, come on, we can go home. And he was like, we could, but there's this. And she kind of like wrote it off as like, oh, you're so Scooby-Doo. You want to explore a mystery. And if it was me, I'd be like, no, take me home.
We're off.
Let me go. He's in that scene, it certainly reads to me like he's holding her captive until what he wants to do is done. And obviously like that's the right thing to do because he had to stop them from Lux. But it really jarred me because the Doctor's charm doesn't work on Belinda.
Yeah.
And it led me to see a side of the Doctor that we very rarely see, which is his... we saw it briefly in Midnight where he's like, I should be in control of the situation when he's not. He kind of gets like an anger comes out.
Yes.
You see that in the Doctor here.
I love that so much. There is something scary about the Doctor in this episode. And I think we're starting to see the darker side of the 15th Doctor. And I think that's also nice because it's allowing Ncuti to do a slightly more nuanced performance, I think, as the Doctor as well, question mark?
I think we were saying what we felt was missing in season 1 was that the Doctor and Ruby became like best friends from day one. And they just were best friend dynamic. And they even said in Unleashed, like, oh, they had to remind us that we don't really know each other yet because we've only just met. And I think when we have this frostiness between Doctor and Belinda, it's what we were missing last time.
Yes. There's something really unsettling about the way that she actually tells him several times, get me home, get me home, get me home. There's a limit to what he can do because like we're bouncing off the right date.
Yeah.
Here's a method we can use. We can take this thing out everywhere we land and it will ping us forward closer to the right date. On some level, I'm like, are you making this up? You know what I mean? Like, what is that? I've never seen that before.
No, I know. I mean, hey, I don't think we've seen everything in Doctor Who.
No.
Don't get me wrong.
But I'm like, are you lying?
Well, this is my thing by the end of the episode because for me, like I said, it's a bit where he holds the door shut so she can't get in.
Yeah.
And like you've seen with like 14 and Donna, they do bounce off different periods and there is a mystery to be unfolded. Like, when he sees Isaac Newton, there's a Mrs. Flood there. No, sorry, Mrs. Flood. I'm muddling up my ladies. It's Susan Triad there. And there is a mystery to unfurl there.
Yeah.
But he kind of, bounces off and I'm sure that there's a whole big finish where the plethora of bouncing off of different places.
Yeah.
But with Belinda, he chose to stay knowing, it's 4 a.m. so no one's really here, but this isn't necessarily a safe space for us.
It's not safe. Yeah.
And you want to get home. And now with this thing being ready, we can leave.
Yeah.
And she's asking him to. And because he is choosing to not let her, that is a bit like, ooh, for me.
It's that she's also in the TARDIS saying like, are my parents safe? Can we get back to them? And she says like, please, can we get back to them?
Do the right
thing. And then
she's
she's like, great, we're done. So we can leave. And he's like, yeah. So he's trying to coax out of her the ordinary companion behavior, which is to be curious and be like, oh, go on, let's have a look. You know, like Satan Pit with All the Impossible Planet with Rose and the Doctor, they turn up and it's like, oh, we could go home. Like, of course, we'd never do that.
Yeah.
We're staying. We're going to investigate. Belinda has no appetite for that. Yeah. She doesn't want to be an adventurer in space and time. She doesn't want to solve these mysteries. She's like, you are like Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
I'm not.
I'm not Scooby-Doo.
I'm not Scooby-Dooing. You know, he's like, okay, come on, Fred, which is funny.
Yeah.
But she doesn't want to be part of this, you know, and he kind of gets what he wants in this as well. And in the end, everything is fine. In the end, everything's resolved.
But it could have not been.
It really could have gone another way.
What happens if the Harbinger had taken all the regeneration energy? Because Belinda was one that saved day. She was burning those lost episodes of Who.
Yeah.
And what if she hadn't done that? The Doctor had died, then I was going to call him Sutek. There's so many gods. And then Ring-a-Ding, you know, has the capture of light and becomes 3D. And she's stuck in the 50s. That could have happened.
It's a pretty bad situation.
It's a pretty bad situation.
It's a pretty bad place to be.
Yeah.
It does just feel like we're seeing him try to manipulate her into being the companion he wants her to be.
I think he had kind of, in this spot, lost Ruby, thought that the woman from the Miss Plinder Challenger planet was going to be his new
Sasha
companion.
55.
Sasha 55. She then, because she dared vocalize that she wanted to see the stars. And
Take
we
me
knew
to the stars.
She wasn't on the press tour, so
yeah.
She was on go. But now I think he's trying to mold Belinda into this new companion that he wants. And she clearly doesn't want to be that.
Yes,
which
absolutely.
is very interesting.
It's a very interesting place to be, because by the end, she's like, oh, I completely trust you, Doctor. I'm sorry that I didn't trust you.
And that's his manipulation.
I was thinking, sorry that you didn't trust him. Why would you trust him? What reason do you have to trust him? So I think this will come to a head where she will have to think, like, why would I trust you? I don't know you.
Exactly.
And I've asked you so many times to get me back, and you've brought me into these scrapes with death. I think The Well is going to be a great example, though, of it going too far.
Yeah.
And it really feeling like I might not be able to fulfill my promise.
I want to know why we are then going to jump to a Ruby story after The Well.
Yeah.
Is it that we're going to have the story flow there? Or is it literally just going to be a cut from like, okay, now we're going to leave them and go to you? Like, what from The Well will lead us as the audience to having to see what Ruby's doing?
Yeah. It's interesting because maybe we get a cliffhanger. And we don't know for a week what happens.
I'd love
and then
that.
we come back and there's something else. And who knows?
I don't know. One thing I really like, so when they land in 1950s Miami and they see, you know, the mystery, there's the sign talking about Rock Hudson. And I just think this is so poignant and so well done, because I feel like, especially in Russell's second era, he has a habit of sometimes being a bit heavy-handed with like a metaphor or a point, like, or a message. And it's so flippant, and it's the way of showing that Belinda is just realizing she's out of time, which says, oh my God, Rock Hudson, I learned about him on our HIV awareness training at work. And then she says, he's living here now, like this is his life, and it's so sad because we know what happens to him. And that's all that they say. They then move very much on from it. But to have such a poignant person who died from complications of AIDS be spoken about in like a, I don't want to say flippant, because it wasn't flippant, but it wasn't the point of the scene.
In
a passing comment, exactly.
Like, yeah.
But to have conversations about HIV awareness be so conversational.
And just kind of embedded into their conversation very naturally. Yeah.
Very, very naturally. I think it's so important because that is the way that, you know, the landscape of life changes when you see it. And I think for so many people, there is still such a taboo around HIV and AIDS.
Yeah.
And to have flippant conversations on a show like Doctor Who about it, where it's not the point of the story, I think was just so well done. It didn't have to be there.
It was just a nice acknowledgement.
It was a proper acknowledgement. And I think it was really respectfully done. It served the purpose of the story, not with anything to do with HIV or AIDS, but because of showing, oh, we're out of time and this is where I know who Rock Hudson is.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated that was in there.
I agree. I think broadly they did a really good job of placing them in time believably. As soon as there's an acknowledgement in the diner that, you know, it's like, oh, we'll have to bend the rules. And she's like, what rules? And the Doctor is kind of always, the Doctor's almost accepted at this point that he needs to make concessions when he travels, which is sad because he's like, honey, I've toppled worlds. I've seen worse than this. I can handle it. But this is Belinda's first experience of being told to kind of just like put up with it. And he's explaining like, yeah, like we can go and sit with her, but it's against the rules. And there's an immediate sense from that they're not safe in a whole other way. So there's yes, the alien threat, but in a much more real way, there's a certain now unpredictability to the characters they're going to meet. It's like the woman they sit with. I'm like, I don't know how she's going to react now. Is she going to be like, warm to them? But later on in the story, where we have a bit of a fake out, where Lux has created the situation where they think they're meeting the woman again, and they're meeting now a police officer who, they've called on them, and it's like, that's the one. He was meddling. Put your hands up, pointing a gun at them. I right away was like, oh, of course, that's, who she really was under it. But, and then that scene I don't think was real. I think it was,
it was all very fictive because he was wearing an NYPD outfit. Like, yes, the doctor was saying, like, your continuity's
off. Yeah. But it's, but it's entirely plausible that was the reaction, right? So, and even at the end of the story, they have this victory, but they can't, let alone expect praise for saving the day. It's like, we really shouldn't hang around.
Yeah.
Because, us were not made for the daylight, which is really sad. But it's woven into the story in a way that it felt very natural.
Yeah, I think the reason I liked it so much is that both with the HIV point and, like you were saying about segregation, neither of them were the point of the story. Yeah. It was just the reality of the space they were in.
Yes,
and it
exactly.
wasn't ignored.
Yes,
it was something that they spoke about, because I don't think you can have, for the first time ever, having a doctor and companion of colour in the Adventures in the TARDIS, go to 1950s America and not
talk about it,
not address it. 100%. And so I think it was done in a really respectful way, and I think that it was a way of showing the period at the time. And like you said, at the very end of the episode, normally the Doctor is there. Russell T Davies said it really well in Unleashed for this week, where he was talking about, people have been asking me since we cast you, like, what are you going to do for a period piece? And you can't ignore it. The Doctor normally feels like they own the space when they're in a room.
Yeah.
And that isn't the case here. And I really like at the end, much as, it is hard, I don't like it, in life, I think it is a really important point in the story for the Doctor to be like, and now we go. Like, this time period isn't for us, so now we go.
Yeah. I think we will get, prediction, a nice inversion of this in Storing the Engine, in that now the Doctor has found other places he can go where he feels welcome and he feels safe. And I think that will be really nice to flip, because it's not something that the other Doctors could experience in the same way.
Completely agree.
So I think it would be nice to see almost like a positive inversion of that as well, and that he can find other places he enjoys being.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I don't know. Prediction.
I'm excited to see it. In the scene when they're in the diner, we get, like, it really moved me. This episode moved me in so many points in places that I didn't expect. When the Doctor is talking to the mum of the kid who's gone missing in the theatre, and she says, oh, I come here all the time. I'm really trying to find him. And then I saw that thing out there, and they'd brought a police box. And obviously she probably would know. I don't know if they were in America as much, but she'd know in that era what a police box was. And she says, well, now they brought that police box, I'm here. And the Doctor says, does that give you hope? And she's like, yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And it really struck a chord with me, because the TARDIS and ergo the Doctor are meant to be symbols of hope.
Yes.
And I love the fact that somebody sees the TARDIS and is hopeful that they will be looked after.
Yes, and hopeful in a way they don't understand on a conscious level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bit like how River was saying with the Doctor, like, Doctor, it means healer and wise man, and it's become a word, we got that word from you.
Yeah.
Because of you, we now know what Doctor means. And I like the idea that even if you have no idea, what a TARDIS is or who the Time Lord is, just the symbol of this blue box.
It means something.
It means something, and
because
it gives you hope.
He's been so many places, different times, that it's almost like embedded in human culture through history. There's a way of just seeing it and understanding what it means.
I love it.
They do that as well in Day of the Doctor, when, Rose as the Bad Wolf talks to the War Doctor, and she's like, that wheezing, groaning sound, it gives people hope. And he's like, I like to think it does. And she's like, even you. And then it gives the Doctor hope to hear the TARDIS sound. And that was really gorgeous. So it was nice to see that, echoed through this too.
Yeah, completely.
The going inside an animation.
Oh, let's get into it.
Going into the screen. I feel like there was a few little clues we were going to get there.
Okay.
One, I think, very early clue was kind of in the Devil's Chord, where we got that kind of like, oh, the soundtrack, I thought that was non-diegetic.
Yeah.
And people were like, oh my God, gag, he can hear the music. And, we were like, oh, it's a Maestro sound effect. In a way, I'm almost like, is that a very early precursor to this? Then we started getting some fourth wall breaks and things like that with Mrs. Flood. And I don't think that's, finished yet. Yeah. I think that's just sort of come to a climax here, but I think there's more to come. There was a way of shooting certain moments. There was one moment outside the theatre when the chains are locked and the Doctor's kind of like looking around. We're suddenly cropped in very close. He's kind of looking around, but it's like his eyes almost like skate over the camera, like just miss it, looking on either side of it as he's kind of scanning around. And then when he's like, whoa, cut, when Mr. Ringerding's about to sing again, he's like, whoa, why did I say cut? Who am I saying that to?
Even before that, they're calling each other Velma and Scooby-Doo and Fred.
Yes.
From the Hanna-Barbera. And then when they go in the 2D world, they are so clearly influenced by Hanna-Barbera.
Yes. But again, the way they shot it, there was this feeling of him almost like looking around but can't quite find the camera. It's like the camera's hidden, but he's kind of looking for it. And that happened a couple of times, which I really liked. Moving inside it, the animation was great because not only did they go into a 2D style, but their dialogue became more two-dimensional with it.
I've got a 2D brain.
I've got a 2D brain.
So
and this waistline is impossible.
The way they talk, their performances as well, is so, Doctor, what are we going to do? And did you hear that she was doing like an American twang?
Yeah.
Oh no, I've got a 2D brain.
Yeah.
And trying to figure out. And then I like that when they feel complex emotion, it gives them 3 dimensions, both in character and also physically in 3 dimensions.
That was nice as well. It's a shame, minor nitpick, that they are still leaning on Last of the Time Lords to be the thing that rounds out the Doctor's personality.
It would be interesting to have some. I wish that he would sometimes reference like lost companions.
Yeah.
As like I lost my best friend. Even as simple as Ruby. Like I was with my friend Ruby and I'm so happy for her, but I'm also so sad because she taught me so much about myself.
Yeah.
And now she's gone and I miss her.
Yeah.
And then that could be a little precursor because we know that eventually Belinda and Ruby will meet each other.
Yeah.
It could be like a little precursor to that. So I agree with you that, again, minor nitpick, but they keep relying on that.
Or it could be I don't know where I'm from. And I think about it all the time. Like, I don't know. I think about it all the time. That I'm not from Gallifrey.
I was sad. And don't get me wrong, I love when we get the like 2D rendered versions of them, a bit more 3D, but I was hoping we'd get like a CGI, traveling through the eras of animation, we might get like a kind of CG kind of version of themselves. And I get that's a whole lot of work.
Oh,
so I understand why they didn't, but like, would have been
They went halfway there.
Yeah.
That was nice. So at this point, I think I knew what was coming. Rumors were abound about the Doctor knowing he's in a TV show. And I think as well, there was maybe enough here to guess at this point that's where it was headed. I mean, seeing it happen was a whole other thing. I was like actually like tense. I was like, here we go, it's coming.
But it's funny that where they're trying to like pull down the frames and they're like, oh, this doesn't work. So then they go up to the screen and they're looking at us. And I was watching with a group of people. And I was like, why is he looking at me?
I know,
He's looking at me.
I know.
And then you see the reflection of the glass when they pull the glass out. And then they start to crawl out. And then the camera pans and you see him crawling out of the TV. And I was like,
and it's like a modern TV in a living room. And there was something about, maybe we're simple. We might be simple people to be like, maybe. Like the first Victorians who went to the cinema and they saw like a moving steam train and they're like, they're like, it's coming by me. Midnight reference. And I also thought, I was like, oh my God, like why is he looking at me? Because it's so unusual in Doctor Who. And that was a gag. And then I think the reveal of the Doctor Who fans, initially I was a bit like, is this good? Is this good? I was really like, is this good? Because I was like, I need to see what they say. Yeah. Because they were so stereotypically the Doctor Who
They
fans,
had the scarf, the meat t-shirt.
The scarf. The fact they've made like merch just for this episode, fantastic commitment to it.
There was a Slovene action figure. So I paused it and I was going through what they had. There was a Slovene action figure on the shelf and I was like, canonically within Doctor Who, there is a Slovene action figure
now.
I said I wanted a Slovene cameo. I did not mean this.
Well, you got it. You got Slovene in season 2. You got what you wanted. There's also All the Wilderness Years DVDs are on the wall. They've got like the series 1 to 4 box sets. They've got there's a promo photo of Shooty and Millie. They're like the early like against like the blue background pictures, the ones that we've got on coasters.
There's a print. Josh, friend of the pod, he was saying that because he used to work at Doctor Who Experience, there were prints that they would sell at the Doctor Who Experience that they had on their wall.
I love.
It's just so messy.
Someone had to. I mean, we'll get the behind the scenes soon, right? But I can imagine them being like, right, we need people to start bringing in their bits for this one, please. Can everyone start bringing in there? I wouldn't be surprised if it turned out the DVD collection was, either someone who worked on the show or someone like Russell bringing in his own DVDs.
Quite possibly.
Because I remember seeing a photo in the Babel offices quite early on, and in someone's office they had like a bookshelf, and on that they had like a bunch of like the collection DVDs. And I love the idea that when they needed to do a bit of reference before it was all on iPlayer, they're like, right, crack out the DVDs. Let's get it in DVD player and we'll have a sit down, have a little look. And they'd go back and be like, right, okay, that's how they do it in that one. And so anyway.
Yeah, I think like you were saying, it's really important for me when I was watching it to see how they wrote the dialogue for the Doctor Who fans. Because I was like, either this is just going to be a piss take, it's going to like be a bit mean, or it's going to be super like self-referential and self-loving in a way that kind of comes across a bit cringy. Like I didn't know what to expect. And honestly, I was so shocked at how emotional I got watching it. Like, I was tearing up. And I think it's because they really know the audience of Doctor Who. Like, there's no one who knows Doctor Who fans better than bbc.co.uk/Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Where they were like, yeah, we are a bit annoying. And I was like, we are a bit annoying.
No, we are annoying. Like, we are annoying. And they were like, but we know that, and we like to be known as that.
And then you get the whole like debate about what's the best episode. And I love that Shooty's always talking about 15th Doctor stories. Like, what about this? What about, the one with the goblins? What about Wars of Landmine? They were like, Blink. Yeah. It's Blink.
Yeah.
And then at the end, when you get this moment where they realise that, they're not really real and they can die, they're talking to the Doctor and they're like, but I just want to thank you because of you, I now met my 2 best friends. And I was like, oh my God. It's so true. Like, it's true for us. Many of the friends that we have are people we've met through Doctor Who world.
Yes. Yeah.
And it just felt like they really knew what they were doing writing these characters. And they were, for what could have been like a 5-minute gag, they became very fully fleshed out characters.
Yeah. I didn't expect anything beyond a bit of a gag. I thought it was going to be... The way I had imagined it was a few people like almost sitting like a theatre and giving a very sarcastic back and forth with the Doctor about, I didn't like when he did that. I did like that. Just almost a bit snarky.
We thought it was going to be like Twitter.
Yeah, I thought it would be a bit more like the Doctor meets Doctor Who Twitter, but actually it was...
It was like the Doctor went to Gallicab.
It's Doctor went to Gallicab. Exactly that. It was just written with a lot of warmth and love for the fans, and also not in a way... When they say it's for the fans, that makes me a bit nervous because sometimes fan service can feel like, looking for an easy win by just kind of including an easy reference or an old character or something like that, or saying something that, gets a gag because it's a bit of an in-joke. This didn't feel like it was kind of for the in-crowd. It felt like there was like a way for a casual fan to also like understand what was happening and enjoy it as well. Like, you could be a casual Doctor Who viewer and recognize your friend who watches Doctor Who.
It was very like easily digestible.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you'd be like, oh, this is obviously an homage to the fans in a way that I understand too. Yeah. And I can see the warmth. What I really liked about it was that I think what surprised me so much about it and was the real gut punch of it was when they then allowed the Doctor Who fans to realize that they were going to die, essentially. And Belinda's like, well, you're not just not existing anymore. That's death. And they were like, well, yeah, I guess. But the fans knew that they had to kind of allow that to move on with the story. And then the Doctor's trying to kind of say some comforting words, but gets cut off by one of the fans kind of like moving on the frame and finishing themselves off so that the story can progress, so the Doctor can save the day and they can finish watching the story. So there was something very touching about that. It allowed the fans to think themselves in a very positive light because you were like, that is the kind of noble thing I would do. You're right. But I just thought that was really very beautiful. Yeah. It just reminded me very much of like, obviously we're pretty hardcore at this point, episode 100 and something of Wholala, but it just felt like people I know, people I've met. It felt like the way that we really do behave. It felt like written by someone who knows and loves the fans.
It didn't feel patronizing to the fans. It felt very much like you could see yourself in a positive light. And I think a big part of that is, like you said at the end, it was the fans that like kind of pushed them to the rest of their adventure. They're like, go on, you've got the 3rd act to do. Like,
go on, off you pop.
It was very palatable for fans and casual viewers of the show in a way that it didn't feel like it was taking the piss. It didn't feel like it was being overly, self-referential. It was just a really funny and heartfelt scene.
Yes. Yeah. Someone said, what if they'd been like, Heaven Sent is actually my favorite episode. And he was like, Heaven Sent? What happens in Heaven Sent? And they're like, oh, it's the one where Clara dies and then you go to the torture chamber? That's one of the best ones.
And they're like, okay.
I'm sorry, which one is it you like?
Oh, God.
And why do you like that one so much? Well, you die hundreds of billions of times.
And it's so good.
And it's so good. Yeah, I like that as well. It was a clear snipe between Russell and Stephen Moffat happening underneath it as well, where it was like, what's Blink about? It's about an episode we can't blink. Oh, sounds epic.
I don't think she was being sarcastic. I thought she was being serious. She was like, that sounds like an epic.
No, I think she was being so sarky. I think that was a classic Belinda, like, oh, it sounds like an epic. An episode we can't blink. Great. Like,
it is interesting.
It was, I love that kind of Belinda sass that we're getting now.
Yeah. So starting to look into the finale of the episode, one thing that I just found really funny is when Belinda had to burn the tapes. Oh, we haven't actually talked about the guy and his wife. We quickly mentioned the guy and his wife. Yeah. That was not the reaction I thought you were going to have. I thought this was so sweet.
was fine.
I genuinely wasn't expecting. I thought he was just going to be like a random character, no backstory or whatever. But I wasn't expecting to be such a lovely scene at the beginning when he's dancing with his wife, and he has that bit with the doctor where he says, "And don't tell me she's not real," because he is.
That's a really good way of looking at it. Yeah, I think it was fine. For me, it was fine. The most interesting. This makes me sound like I have no empathy. I'm sorry, everyone. It was nice. It gave a good motivation to doing what he's doing. Totally plausible. I thought visually interesting as well. I like the way that initially he's dancing with a woman in black and white.
Yeah.
And then she comes into color. I like the idea as well that he's able to like, it seemed like Lux was creating almost home footage that didn't exist, like creating memories, creating false memories.
It seemed like that, yeah.
But in doing that, actually ended up creating an independent apparition of a person. So that was very interesting. I think sometimes when something's reaching its climax and it's like, let me in, you need to give me the matches, and then everything slows down for an emotional moment, that's when I'm like, you've got to hurry up.
But that's the point.
That's the point.
That's the point.
I know that's the point. I know that's the point. But in that, for me, the moment in question, listen, that reflects poorly on me as a viewer, right? Like that I'm just like, come on, let's go. Like, but I'm just, so as it slows right down, I'm like, we gotta.
No, but I like that you get, because there's the tension. Otherwise, she just grabbed the match. But I like the bit where she gives him the match. I liked it. I thought it was very heartfelt, but it led to a funny scene for me because this whole episode is meta in a conversation about Doctor Who fans watching Doctor Who. And when they go into a room of film reels and Belinda takes the matches and wants to burn it all, I was like, Marco Polo's in there.
You're like, oh, it's the BBC.
The Dark Invasion, like that.
The way that BBC just trashed them.
Well, they were just like, hey, what are we going to do?
What are we going to do with these?
What are we going to do?
These aren't.
What are you going to do? Put them on a home movie?
What would you do with these? Ben, they've been broadcast. What are we going to do with them? That is so insane, isn't it?
I know. We have to do an episode. I mean, Josh Nair's on their channel. They've done a real deep dive into the lost episodes.
Yeah.
But for me, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but I was like, this has to be something like the lost episodes.
I immediately was thinking about it. I think it's a reference back to that, I'm sure.
So then you get the noble sacrifice of the guy about to burn because the doctor hung up, drawn and quartered by the film reels, giving regeneration energy to Ring-a-Ding.
Yeah.
That was cool. I loved the shot. The visual effects in that were amazing. I love the bit where the regeneration energy is like spewing out of him and you see the doctor's heart's beating and then you see Mr. Ring-a-Ding's little like heart beating. What did you think of the transformation from 2D to CG?
That was really nice and also really scary because Mr. Ring-a-Ding in 2D is quite sweet.
Ugrily in 3D.
And 3D, it was like the real horror came through. Then you realize how like distorted and oversized the facial features are, how large his teeth are. They then gain color and they're becoming yellow.
They get texture.
They get textured teeth. So that became really scary. Like the hair looks matted and greasy in it, but it all became a bit like, oh, actually, this is quite uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So I thought it was incredibly good. And I loved as well, like even when he's like developing 3D hands, he develops like almost like the mesh that you would see in like Blender, like you see it's like the 3D model is coming to life. It's not just like boop, 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 like growing hands, but it's like he's actually becoming 3D animated.
I watched it and I said he's getting vectorized. He's getting vectors.
Yes.
Like, Ring-a-Ding's getting vectorized.
He's getting his polygons. That was really cool. And then and then a surprisingly touching resolution, really.
It was very sweet. The whole thing about, giving him sunlight and Belinda like, that's what he needs. And the doctor saying, we're 6% water, you can still drown. Yeah. And he says about how, he's taking in the light of the universe. He's growing, and that's a threat. And then all of a sudden you see his eyes turn like a warm glow and he just starts to fade into nothingness but get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
I thought it was really poetic and very sweet. And I really liked it because it's an example of the doctor defeating a villain with kindness.
Yes, I agree. Which was a nice contrast to last week's like, lol, he's a sperm again. Oh my God, we hoovered him. Yes. Which for me was a real low actually last, because it was gleeful about a character's death. Yeah. And that's never really the doctor. In this one, you're right. It was much more back to that kind of like, like there's a grayness. It's better if it's ever possible to rehabilitate a villain. And this felt like the light of the universe had like purified him. Yeah. And so he just keeps growing. But as he goes, he like almost takes on the beauty of everything as well.
He was like, I'm everything and therefore I'm nothing.
Yes. And interesting to see like, where does Lux fit in with all these other gods? Because I mean, I guess you can have an infinite number of gods. You have like the god of light, god of death, god of What else we had? God of Music. And
There's the Trickster, the God of Games. There is Toymaker, the God of Games. The Trickster's the God of... I want to say it's God of Tricks. God of Traps. No, he's God of Traps. Trickster's the God of Traps. The Toymaker is the
called the Trapster.
That sounds like a great 80s musician track. It's the Trackster.
The Trapster.
We've got the Trickster, we've got the Toymaker, we've got Sutek, we've got Maestro, we've got Ring-a-Ding, and then we have the big snake from
the Mara, the God of Beasts or something.
The God of Beasts, and then there's, the deity and her children of Malice and something or other. There's a collective.
Of which there are 3.
Of which 3?
There's a trio, right? There's a trio.
What, like the 3 fans on the couch?
This is it. This was what was really funny. Some people immediately after this episode have gone like, oh my God.
It's the gods of Ragnarok.
The fans, they're the gods of Ragnarok. I don't even know what they are.
They got a reference in the giggle.
Sure. And people are like, they're the gods, which would be so deeply funny to me if it was like the Doctor Who fans in this are actually indeed the gods, because that's who Mrs. Flood is addressing when she breaks the fourth wall, the fans. And they remain alive. And they were saying like, oh, look, Mrs. Flood's trapped them in a pocket universe where they're just watching the TV in the living room. I was like, this is like layers on layers on layers. I don't think that's true. I mean, I don't think that's true.
I think it's a bit of a gag.
It's a fun theory. It's a really fun theory that the Doctor Who fans are actually the big bad and that they are the unholy trinity. The other theory for the unholy trinity was that it's Chris Chibnall, Stephen Moffat and Russell T Davies because as the writers of the show, they're the ultimate string pullers.
That's very true.
Which is very funny. Sutek's been downgraded. Sutek was the god of gods, at least in the way that he introduced himself via Harriet Harbinger.
Yeah.
And now it seems that Sutek is merely the god of death as introduced by Ring-a-Ding.
It's interesting because I think that maybe every god thinks they're the most important god. I think we were led to believe in the giggle that the Toymaker is like the most dangerous person. The Doctor is terrified. And then we think of the Sutek. And I like the idea that there is somebody, we got the I was going to say the Flicks, that is not what I meant. We got Beep the Meep.
Yeah.
The Meep saying, just wait till you meet the boss. And we don't know who the boss is.
But is the Meep's boss a god?
Is the Meep a god?
I was wondering, is the Doctor a god? Is the Doctor now the god of life?
I don't think
because he's like, if you're death and that's what you've made me, I'm life.
Yeah, but I don't think he's a god. I think that's very Time Lord Victorious.
Yeah.
That sounds very David Tennant.
I wonder if even though he hasn't given himself that title, that's the role he plays.
The god of doctoring?
Sure. Yes.
God of medicine.
The god of medicine, the Doctor. Yeah, sure. Yeah, it was interesting to see it get reframed and see is Sutek actually just a little bit less than he's kind of saying he is. The question I have off the back of this is, we see the word Harbinger on the front of the theatre, but is Mr. Ring-a-Ding the Harbinger for Lux?
This is it.
Or is Lux / Mr. Ring-a-Ding the Harbinger for someone else?
I always thought Harbingers are a bit like pilot fish, where
they go first,
to go first, and then they're bringing something else. So I always felt like, the Harbinger, the little kid in the Devil's Call, was there to bring in Maestro, and is Ring-a-Ding there to bring in someone else? It seemed in this one that maybe it's that the theatre is the Harbinger. I don't know.
I think Ring-a-Ding was, and then was ultimately possessed by Lux. It was confusing.
Yeah, maybe.
But this is where I think you shouldn't overthink too much.
Well, Ring-a-Ding clearly exists in this world, like the Ring-a-Ding cartoons.
The Ring-a-Ding was.
So it sounds like the light from the moon made Lux go into Ring-a-Ding.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
And all of this because of some simple salt.
And all of this because of some salt.
Simple.
What if we just throw in pepper?
Salt.
Simple, honest salt.
Simple, honest salt.
Are you excited for the next episode? We've got a little next time in.
I'm massively excited for the next one. This was a wonderful episode with a lot of replay value and a lot of heart to it. And it blew all my expectations out of the water. The episodes that I was excited for this season were The Well and for Lucky Day.
Yeah.
Both still to come. And this one completely surpassed my expectations.
This is what I was saying. I feel like in the last season, I kind of ended every episode and I was like, did I like that? And whether I did or didn't, I had to kind of ask myself.
And digest it a little bit.
Yeah. Whereas for me, both of these ones, I was like, great.
Yeah.
Even better. And the ones like you said, I was excited for The Well. I'm excited for Lucky Day, even though I don't love that it's meant to be Dr. Light. I was excited for the Incel Song Contest. I was really excited for the story in the engine. I will see with the finale.
Yeah.
I will reserve my thoughts. But I think this is going to be a great season.
Because we're into the new writers now.
Yay! I can't wait.
We're stepping away from Russell as the main writer for these.
Russell, put the pen
these
down.
Russell, put the pen down.
Wait.
Put it down.
Down.
Where I can see it.
But yeah, I'm so excited. Obviously, there's rumors are flying and who knows what's true, but all I know is that it's going to be a real creepy episode. It's going to be, I think, base under siege. And I think we're going to see another side of the Doctor and Belinda where she might not have so much fun on this one.
I don't think this is going to be a fun trip. I think this is going to be quite a horror.
I think so too.
Quite a horror. We were left with quite a haunting message by Mrs. Flood in this episode about the 24th of May.
Yeah.
Limited run.
It took me way too long to realize because I thought when, they picked up Belinda on 24th of May, I was like, they clearly thought this was airing in May. And then I realized that it's the day of the finale. And I was like, oh,
yeah. Limited run. Show ends 24th of May.
Does the show end on the 24th of May?
People were saying if the show did get put on hiatus / cancelled after the season, the last thing we'll see of Doctor Who is the war between the land and the sea. Come on, Sea Devil.
The Sea Devil unit.
Come on, Sea Devil. We've got worlds to save. And that's...
Can you imagine if it got cancelled off like Class?
Yeah.
It's that vibe.
It's not that bad.
Was Class that bad?
Yeah.
We need to do a rewatch of that. For you?
For me?
I like The Weeping Witcher, but that's a story for another day. I'm excited to do our weekly viewings of The Sea Devil when that comes out. Whether or not it is the last thing of Doctor Who we'll ever see, I don't know.
Yeah.
Either Doctor Who gets cancelled at the end of the season, and then what a gag that Mrs. Flood told us it would, and it did. Or it ends up being this huge marketing ploy that it was never going to be cancelled, and we're just lead to believe that, it's the end of everything, even Doctor Who, and then obviously it doesn't, it gets renewed.
That'd be astonishing.
Both are fine.
I can't think of any brand taking that risk to be like, let's seed the idea that our show is doing really badly. And so badly that we won't renew it.
Yeah.
And then we weave that into the story. I mean, if they did, I would be astonished by how bold that is as a marketing tactic.
I still don't think it'd be the right thing to do.
I think it would have caused probably more concern than was necessary. When they could have just said, I think
there's an irreparable damage done here.
Yeah, I mean, and I would say everyone's played their part incredibly well to, sell that story in a very convincing way. I don't think that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Personally,
I guess we're going to have to wait and see.
Let's clown for a bit longer.
And you'll be seeing with us, dear listener. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Lux. If you would like to see more from us, please tweet us at Wholala Pod. We are on social media everywhere. That is Blue Sky, X, Instagram, TikTok. You can also watch our episode of the podcast on the YouTube channel at Wholala Pod.
Yes, you can. And if you enjoy the podcast, you can hit follow wherever you get your podcasts, get notified when we drop new episodes. If you're watching on YouTube, you can hit the subscribe button. You can rate this episode 5 stars on your podcast platforms, wherever you get them. You can buy us a coffee, KO-FI, if you're feeling particularly generous. And you can share this episode with a friend who you think will enjoy it and let them know how good Wholala is.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next week for the well.
For the well.
See you then.
Well.
Well, we'll see you then.
Well, I wasn't expecting that.